Auburn's first round matchup is set, but how far will the Tigers go in the tournament? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for giving us a listen today. We're talking Auburn basketball, and joining me, as he does always, is my good friend Jacob Goins, host of On the Line Sports Talk on 106.7. Jacob, last night, Alabama State won in dramatic fashion. And they will be Auburn's first round matchup here. So they get out of the first four and into the round of in the field of 68. Last year Auburn lost in the first round to Yale. It is probably easier to get struck by lightning than it is for a 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed, especially the number 1 overall seed. Virginia was the first team to do it a few years ago. They came back the next year and won the entire thing. They were national championships the year after being the first 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed. What do you see here for the Tigers in the first round in Lexington, Kentucky? They'll have Alabama State and then possibly a tougher second round matchup.
Yeah, I think the first round matchup for Auburn, right, it was either going to be St. Francis or Alabama State. And I was saying just from the from the lack of storyline perspective, I didn't want to play Alabama State because it's the in-state foe, right? It's a mid-major team that, I compare it to the midweek game in baseball, which Auburn was playing Alabama State in baseball this week, funny enough, because those teams like Alabama State or South Alabama or Sanford and things like that, they look up to Auburn and Alabama, same way they do for a Georgia team or in LSU, like Louisiana. Like those smaller teams look up to the big state schools. And in a one-off situation, Mike, they give you everything you want. Baseball saw that on Tuesday, and I think basketball is going to see that on Thursday. Do I think Alabama State has the dudes to run with Auburn? No, not for 40 minutes, not in any case. But I would have rather played St. Francis just to avoid that problem. But it is what it is, and Auburn has to play whoever it is, and of course it is Alabama State. I don't think the matchups are going to be favorable for Alabama State. You're talking about one of the last 2 teams or the bottom 2 teams in the NCAA tournament when ranked 1 through 68. And so with Auburn playing in Lexington, I know a ton of Auburn fans are going to be there. They travel extremely well. This should not be an issue, but Auburn cannot overlook this. Auburn cannot just cakewalk into this and think, oh, we're fine. It's just Alabama State. Let's look ahead to the round of 32. You can't do that. And if Auburn does, you have a chance to lose because this is the NCAA tournament and you cannot take it for granted.
You can't take anything for granted. Obviously, they found that out last year versus Yale. Yep. Look, all eyes are going to be on Chad Baker-Mazara headed into the NCAA tournament. Dylan Cardwell had an interesting quote. I was able to ask him a question after they got bounced from the SEC tournament against Tennessee. And he said, we have to have a sense of urgency, knowing that if we lose again, that's it. No more team meals, no more meetings, no more games, no more Auburn basketball if we lose another game. Look, this is the time for leaders to step up. I think Dylan Cardwell is one of those leaders. He was vocal after Chad Baker-Mazara got bounced out of the game versus Yale. Do you think that they'll have this under control in the tournament? What are you anticipating? How do you unleash Chad Baker-Mazara but not bridle his passion that makes him so good at basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it's something you and I have talked about here on the War Report is you have to get through to him. This is bigger than you, man. There is so much riding on this. We have a chance to, talking about Auburn, you have to tell him we have a chance to win a national championship, and you have to get that through his head. And I'm concerned, Mike, if it hasn't happened already, it may not happen. And then that's where the conversation starts to come in. If you're Bruce Pearl, Stephen Pearl, Chad Pruitt, all these guys on the staff, how do you manage Chad Baker? Because I dropped the quote on your show the last couple of times we visited him. I said, you're not better without him, but you might be safer without him. And if
Right.
that's the case deeper in the tournament, right, whether you play Louisville or Creighton in the round of 32, you could play Michigan in the Sweet 16, you could see Michigan State, you could see Texas A&M. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could get under the skin of Chad Baker-Mazara. So you just have to be smart with him. And if you start to see signs, get him out. Don't let it get to that point. Calm him down on a game-by-game basis. And we're not talking about a crazy person here. We're talking about somebody that's just a very colorful player in college basketball. And so I think if you're Chad, you just have to realize it's win or go home. I think Auburn will realize it's win or go home. And if you do those things, this is the first time we've seen all year that this team is going to be playing in a win or go home scenario. We've never seen this team have to play with that mindset. And with so many guys coming back from a year ago that lost to Yale in the first round, I think the mindset's going to be really, really good heading into the tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, they've got work to do here. It's if you're Bruce Pearl, there has to be a sense of urgency for you. This is your best chance, I think, to get to a Final Four and deliver that also elusive championship for the Auburn Tigers. They got real close in 2018, 2019. A lot of people argue had it not been for the missed double dribble call, they would have romped Texas Tech in the final. I have a hard time arguing with that, Jacob. So, we'll see how this goes for Auburn. But look, who are going to be the stars of this tournament for Auburn in round one? We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weight and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Golden's Cast Iron, longtime sponsor of the War Report. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Also, our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, brackets, whatever ails you this spring, the Rogue Shop has something to help keep you calm during all the tournament madness. We appreciate them for sponsoring as well. And our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're in the Phoenix City area or in the Opelika, Auburn area, and you don't mind making the drive down to Phoenix City, visit the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite I in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across from Chattahoochee Valley Community College. My guy Steve Watkins over there serving up fresh cuts for the community. Such a great business there. And look, that's where I go to stay fresh. I'm on camera all the time, Jacob. It's hard keeping up sometimes with the fade, but Vibe Vault has me covered. Let's jump back in here. Who are going to be the stars of this tournament for Auburn? Obviously, all eyes will be on National Player of the Year candidate Johni Broome. But at times in big games, we've seen other players step up when Johni has, had a slow game. Outside of Johni, who are you expecting to shine in this round one matchup versus Alabama State?
Well, I think whether it's the round one matchup or just the tournament as a whole, I think Chaney Johnson has to be somebody that produces for you in March. When you've seen Auburn at their best, it's when Chaney comes in, not just with his defense, but of course with his offensive production, with his offensive scoring, whether it be rebounding or dishing it out or just flat out bullying somebody down low and being the player we know that he can be. We want retro Chaney. We want old school Chaney Johnson. If Auburn can get that and that be 8 to 10 points, 5 or 6 rebounds, a couple of blocks or something like that, man, this team is going to be unstoppable. I think he really is one of those key guys off the bench for Bruce Pearl and Auburn. So I expect Chaney Johnson to be that guy. I think Dylan Cardwell, not from an offensive perspective, but his defensive presence down low, especially early on against a team like Alabama State, he has to be a menace inside because, look, we watched that first 4 game. Alabama State doesn't have anybody that can go up against the 17-foot tall Dylan Cardwell, who is the most shredded guy I've ever seen. I mean, there's nobody that can compete with him in the paint for Alabama State for 40 minutes. And so, again, I look at Chaney Johnson, I look at Dylan Cardwell, and I hope Tahad Pettiford steps up in the moment like we've seen him do almost all season long. Other than the worst game he's played so far of his career, the big moments are his specialty. And I look at those guys, and if Tahad Pettiford can avoid the true freshman moments, right, the basketball sticking in his hands, turnovers, bad shots, which he doesn't do very often, Mike, and then hit some big time shots, I think Auburn's going to be in a really good spot, not just on Thursday, but for the entire tournament.
Speaking of Chaney Johnson. Look, yeah, it's been kind of a slow few games for Chaney, and
Yeah.
Auburn certainly needs him. Now he's not getting off a lot of shots right now, but in their last game he had a three and then just kind of went away for the rest of the game. Can you talk about the importance of a Chaney Johnson, a guy who was kind of like your sixth man of the year? For a lot of the season, he got a few starts this year, but Chaney Johnson is a really important depth piece for Auburn. Depth has been their strength. Depth did not show up versus Tennessee when they got bounced from the NCAA tournament, and I don't think you can afford that if you're Auburn this go around. Forgive me, the SEC tournament. So it's I think Chaney is such an important piece for them. Obviously, Tahad Pettiford over 8. I don't think that happens in the tournament. That's a big reason why your bench didn't produce a ton of points. But obviously, they need both those guys, I think, if they're going to make a deep run into this tournament.
Yeah, for Chaney Johnson, I think, too, you talk about the depth idea and think about what the NCAA tournament is and kind of how the games play out in the NCAA tournament. We talk about this all the time. Officiating is so tight in the tournament. They blow that whistle so much because the officials know how important the game is. They don't want to get it wrong. They don't want to miss something. And it's almost overbearing at times. But we know about Auburn, we have a problem sometimes. This team, they have a problem with defending without fouling. And Chaney Johnson could come into a spot where Dylan gets in foul trouble or Janai gets in foul trouble. We've seen Chad Baker get in foul trouble, right? You could bring in Chaney Johnson as you have all season long and get you from the under 12 to the under 4 or whatever the case may be. I mean, he could be somebody that you rely on as you have basically his entire career. If you get in foul trouble, then you can rely on him. But in those moments, if he is one of the guys on the floor, he has to be aggressive with the basketball. And if he is, I think Auburn's going to be very successful. But I would love to see guys like Dylan and Chad and others defend without fouling. Denver Jones does a good job of that. Miles Kelly does a good job of that. You can't get in foul trouble consistently in March and expect to win a national title. So I think that's where Chaney Johnson really comes into.
Rounding out this segment, I wanted to end talking about Tahad Pettiford. Obviously, when you lost to Yale, Aiden Holloway famously 0 points, couldn't hit a shot. We saw a glimpse of that. Hopefully, Tahad Pettiford got that out of his system versus Tennessee. He blew a wide open layup. The frustration on his face when he blew that layup as well, too, Jacob, was palpable. If you're Tahad Pettiford or if you're Bruce Pearl, how do you get Tahad Pettiford going? I mean, this is a kid that has hit some really big shots in some big games, especially in the non-conference. He carried Auburn in some games, and he's filled in admirably for Denver Jones when he's been hurt. But he's been a little boom or bust as of late, and you need more boom and bust here in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think you just tell him, man, do what you do. I mean, Tahad Pettiford is a dog, man. I mean, he played high-level high school basketball. He's a Jersey kid, and he's had one bad game. One. That's it. In his entire freshman season, there has been one truly bad game. And I think if you're Bruce Pearl and the guys, I think you tell him that. And look, he doesn't play like a freshman. And I think that's what's exciting about Tahad Pettiford going into the tournament is you trust him with the basketball in his hands. You trust him when he's on the floor. And you are okay with him shooting some of those shots that you may not be okay with others taking. I mean, he takes the Jared Harper, Bryce Brown kind of ice in his veins threes, and you're okay with it because typically he makes them. He didn't in the SEC tournament game, but who cares? You move on from that, and this is a brand new season. And so I think you tell Tahad Pettiford, man, go out there and ball. Don't overdo it. We don't need you to be Superman. Just do what you do. Don't turn the ball over, hit some shots, run the offense, and when your name is called, go get a bucket. And I think Tahad Pettiford can do that. I trust him to do that, and I think he's only going to get more confident as Auburn wins games in the NCAA tournament.
Jacob, before we get out of here, give me a score for the first round. If Auburn beats Alabama State, they will face off against Louisville or Creighton. Give me a quick score for the first round, and also give me a prediction on who their second round matchup will be.
Yeah, I think last time I looked, Auburn was like a 31-point favorite, something like that. It was going to be like 34-35 against St. Francis. So Auburn, clearly the better team here. I'll take Auburn. I'll say 92-70. I think Auburn will win. I think Auburn will control it. So I'm going to say 92-70 over Alabama State. A lot of those may be some garbage time points down the stretch. As much as I am afraid of Creighton, I do not want Auburn to play Creighton. I have a feeling they're going to end up playing Louisville. And I think that's a better matchup for Auburn in the round of 32. So I'm going to have Auburn beating Alabama State. I think Louisville will win a really good game against Creighton, and Auburn will face off against the Louisville Cardinals in the round of 32.
Oh, Auburn versus Louisville in the round of 32. Great stuff. Jacob, I want to thank you for joining me today. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can tune in Monday through Friday, 2 to 4. If you're here locally in the Auburn-Opelika area, it's on ESPN 106.7. That's 106.7 on your radio dial. Or if you're anywhere across the state, across the country, ESPNAU.com. We're on the air 2 to 4, Monday through Friday.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express powered by the War Report with my guy Jacob Goins. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.